Pat Boone was never just another singer. He wasn't the wild rock star type or the headline-making rebel, but somehow, he still managed to become one of the biggest names in American entertainment. Born Charles Eugene Boone on June 1, 1934, in Jacksonville, Florida, he grew up far from the Hollywood spotlight. Raised in Nashville, Tennessee, Pat's world was filled with Southern values, Christian teachings, and a strong sense of right and wrong. From an early age, it was clear that Boone wasn't going to be just another face in the crowd. He was polished, polite, and determined to succeed, but on his own terms. He studied at David Lipscomb College and North Texas State before eventually graduating from Columbia University with a degree in speech and English. That education didn't just make him smart. It made him smooth. He knew how to speak, how to carry himself, and how to connect with people. Those skills would soon make him a star. But Boone's rise wasn't just about charm. It came at a time when America was changing fast. The 1950s brought the explosion of rock and roll, and while most stars of the era leaned into rebellion, Boone stood out by doing the opposite. He was clean-cut, well-mannered, and faith-driven. Parents across America loved him. Teens couldn't get enough of him. And radio stations played him non-stop. What really sparked his career was a bold and controversial decision. Boone began recording cover versions of popular R&B songs originally performed by black artists. Songs like Ain't That a Shame by Fats Domino and Tutti Frutti by Little Richard weren't just hits, they were groundbreaking. Boone's smooth versions introduced these songs to white audiences who might not have heard the originals. Some praised him for bridging racial gaps in music. Others accused him of cultural appropriation. But no matter where people stood on the issue, there was no denying Boone's versions were everywhere. He helped bring a new kind of music into the mainstream, even if it came with criticism. By the late 50s, Pat Boone was unstoppable. He had more than 38 top 40 hits and sold over 45 million records. That kind of success didn't just happen. It meant people really connected with what he was offering. He wasn't just selling music. He was selling a brand. A safe, wholesome brand that people trusted. While other stars might have made headlines for wild antics or controversial performances, Boone was winning hearts by simply being himself. He was even second only to Elvis Presley in chart performance during that decade. A rare achievement considering how massive Elvis had become. Boone's fame didn't stop at music. He hosted his own TV variety show, The Pat Boone Chevy Showroom, from 1957 to 1960. It was a weekly highlight for many American families, giving Boone a platform to showcase new musical talent and entertain millions. His presence was calm, respectful, and warm. Something that made him more than just a pop star. He was now a trusted figure in people's homes. And that trust carried into his acting career, where he starred in films like April Love, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and State Fair. These roles matched his real-life image. Honest, romantic, and morally upright. Boone didn't take roles just to stay famous. If something didn't align with his values, he turned it down. In an industry known for compromise, he held his ground. Faith wasn't just a side note in Boone's life. It was at the center of everything he did. He used his fame to promote Christian values, speak at evangelical events, and write best-selling books on family, faith, and morality. His book, Twixt 12 and 20, written for teenagers, sold millions and helped guide a generation through tough years. Boone never stayed silent on issues he believed in. He didn't chase popularity. He stood by his beliefs, even when it wasn't the trendy thing to do. Then came a surprising twist in the 1990s. Boone, known for gospel songs and love ballads, released an album of heavy metal covers. Yes, metal. He called it In a Metal Mood. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Wearing black leather, Boone shocked the world when he appeared at the American Music Awards. At first, people didn't know what to think. Was it a joke? Was he serious? It turned out the album was meant as a fun tribute, not a full reinvention. But it worked. Suddenly, a new generation discovered Boone, and the album became a cult favorite. It proved that even in his 60s, Boone was still taking chances. By the numbers alone, Boone's career is staggering. Over 2,600 recorded songs, more than 50 million records sold, 6 #1 singles, and 38 top 40 hits. For over 220 consecutive weeks, more than 4 years, he had at least one single on the U.S. charts. That kind of consistency is almost unheard of. Few artists in any era, can claim such a steady run of success. Boone didn't just have a moment. He had a legacy. But one of the most fascinating parts of Pat Boone's story isn't about music or movies. It's about his connection to another giant of the 1950s, Elvis Presley. For decades, people wondered about the real relationship between these two icons. Were they rivals? Friends? Opposites who just happened to rise at the same time? Boone is now finally opening up about it. He remembers a time when headlines loved to pit him against Elvis. The media thrived on drama, and painting them as competitors made for great stories. Boone was the clean-cut good guy. Elvis was the dangerous heartthrob. But the truth, Boone says, was far more human. He always admired Elvis. Not just his talent but the raw intensity he brought to the stage. Boone recalls seeing Elvis backstage, away from the lights and cameras. He was shy, quiet, and deeply serious about music. Boone saw something others missed. A young man who wasn't just trying to be a star but was trying to say something with his music. Their careers took different paths. Boone stuck to his faith-based, safe image. Elvis pushed boundaries and became a symbol of rebellion and passion. Boone admits that this contrast made them look like opposites, but he never saw it that way. He respected Elvis for daring to be different, and in some ways, he even credits Elvis for making the world ready for new sounds, including Boone's own. He saw Elvis not as a rival, but as someone who helped open doors for everyone. Over the years, Boone watched as Elvis's fame became a heavy burden. The addiction, the loneliness, the sadness, it hit Boone hard. He believes Elvis was searching for something more than applause. He was chasing peace, purpose, maybe even God. Boone says he often wished he could have done more. That maybe if they had talked more, or if Elvis had found stronger spiritual support, things might have turned out differently. He doesn't speak with judgment. Only sadness. To Boone, Elvis wasn't just a legend. He was a sensitive, struggling man who got swallowed up by his own fame. Boone talks about real conversations they had. About faith, about fears, about the pressure of being young and famous. He remembers late-night calls, quiet chats in studios, and moments when both men admitted they didn't have it all figured out. They weren't just performers. They were human beings, trying to keep their feet on the ground while the world cheered them on or pulled them apart. Boone now says that the real Elvis was someone most people never saw. Not the showman, but the soul behind it all. And that's the Elvis he chooses to remember. Even in his 90s, Pat Boone hasn't slowed down. He still performs, speaks, and stands up for the causes he believes in. He reflects on his life not with pride, but with gratitude. He's outlived many of his peers, avoided scandals, and remained true to his values. His marriage to Shirley Foley lasted 65 years, a rare achievement in any walk of life, especially in show business. Together, they raised 4 daughters, including Debbie Boone, who had her own musical success with the classic You Light Up My Life. Boone's family has always been his foundation, and his faith has kept him grounded through decades of fame. When people talk about Pat Boone, they often mention the clean image, the hit songs, or the television show. But what really stands out is his consistency. In an industry known for fast rises and hard falls, Boone stayed steady. He wasn't chasing trends. He was building a life of faith, purpose, and connection. He didn't need to shock people to stay relevant. He simply stayed true to himself. And now, by finally sharing the truth about his relationship with Elvis, Boone is helping people see both their stories in a new light. It's not about who sold more records or who had the bigger crowd. It's about understanding the person behind the performance. Boone's reflections offer something rare in today's world: honesty without bitterness, respect without rivalry, and wisdom born from real experience. Pat Boone's story is one of fame earned with integrity, risks taken with humility, and a legacy built on more than just music. It's the story of a man who never stopped believing in something bigger than himself and never stopped caring about the people he met along the way. And now, as he shares those truths with the world, it's clear that Pat Boone's voice still matters. Not just in music, but in the way he lived his life. If this story moved you or made you think differently about Pat Boone or Elvis Presley, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more real stories behind legendary names.